Hello, everybody. Andy here from Glass Half Dead, the best kill team channel on the internet. Unless, of course, you've heard of literally any other kill team channel. So, why I cheated in a kill team tournament that I went to this weekend, although you'll be seeing this video much later. It was a team tournament, and I know what you're probably thinking. Why is this guy pretending to have cheated when he probably just made a rules error? Um, I don't believe I did. And I want to tell you why, although it was an accident, it was ultimately cheating instead of just a rules error, and why we have to consider as a community what that should mean. But this was not just a rules error. It was an error. I didn't mean to do it, but I did do it ultimately. And it was not, I rolled 5 dice instead of 4. It wasn't, it was more than that. It was, if I had to phrase it fully, I would probably say it was a campaign of psychological terror against my opponent throughout the final turn of the game. Let's get into it. I am going to give you like a full tournament report here. I've done some slides. It's going to look very nice, but I am going to focus quite heavily on a single interaction, the final turn of one of the games, which I will explain to you. Then I want to talk about some other examples of cheating and where that line can get very blurry. First things first, the difference between an honest mistake and cheating is unfortunately a very unknowable intent. And so many people online, who are, of course, the most balanced of people to ever have discussions, like to just say the word cheating when what they mean is a mistake was made. I wouldn't take these things too to heart. If you ever get accused of cheating in a tournament, you probably made a rules error. The only true this was a rules mistake that can't kind of be blamed away is I have loaded dice. But beyond that, almost everything can be considered a rules mistake. And then you've got to ask, is it an honest mistake or is it actual cheating? Honestly, I think that if this is happening at bottom tables, it's really not that big of a deal, let's be honest. And it's probably because you're at the bottom tables, let's be honest, it's probably because you're only half aware of the game and you forgot your rules. Cool, nobody cares. It's fine. If you're at the top tables, I think this is a much bigger deal. Suddenly, I'm like a mid player, right? Like I'm not terrible, but I'm also not particularly good. If I make a rules error, it's probably because I'll talk about tournament prep in a moment. It's probably because I've just forgotten the rules of the team because I've only played it like 2 times before I've got to the tournament. But I would be very surprised, and I would hold better players than myself to a much higher standard. For example, at Worlds, I would expect anybody at Worlds in that top 16 bracket to make 0 rules mistakes. And I also don't think that's a crazy thing to expect if you've made it to top 16 of Worlds. I'm not saying everybody that goes to Worlds has to make 0 mistakes, but at a certain level, you do have to say, you know what, you should know your rules well enough that you don't, you know. And ultimately, obviously, when it comes to intent, I actually think that your opponent should get to decide if you have made a rules error, or which we cannot prove is cheating or just a mistake. I think your opponent gets to decide the punishment, and if they're willing to give you a take back or rewind or whatever, then fine, that's up to them. But I'm actually if they say no, what you did was not legal, so we will continue the state of play having undone your illegal move, and you essentially lose whatever would have happened for your benefit. So if you you charged in, you fought, you rolled 6 dice, you should have only rolled 4, and you don't figure it out until next turn. I actually think the opponent gets to just put his model back on the board. Assuming that you don't want to just concede and give them the win, because that's the alternative. Obviously, there are levels to this, et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, and I think the problem where Kill Team specifically comes up against this is that because it is such a precise and lethal game, Kill Team is a game where the most common move is defined by 2 millimeters. So mistakes really do matter. Anytime you nudge terrain, if you haven't stated intent, you're fucked. There you go. Sorry, if you're wondering why I put 2 millimeters, that's because that is the width of a light barricade. During this tournament, 2 people did it. They put their model there and they said, so I'm within 1 inch of my side of the barricade, but I'm over 1 inch from your side of the barricade. So just so you know, I have cover and you can't charge me. Okay. That's the game we play. And so, some people are going to make that sort of movement because they think that's fun, and that's fine. That's the game we play. And they are correct. That's why you can't argue against it. It is a very precise move. They have stated their intent. They are correct in the rules. If you don't like that kind of gameplay, you don't have to play it, but know that your opponents will. And when you're talking about a 2 millimeter movement, yeah, there you go. That's the game we play. Let's talk about my prep, my tournament prep. So I'm a hardcore gamer, as you know. So going into this, let me before Deathwatch released, before anybody, including myself, saw their rules, I had bought tickets to this event and I said, I'm going to play Deathwatch. Okay. So I didn't know what their rules were when I locked that in. Fine. I told my teammates, I'm going Deathwatch. I don't care what their rules are. I'm running them. Nice. Good stuff. I had them locked in until the week before. So here's my tournament prep regimen. At the very last second, I swapped from Deathwatch to Vespids, and then at the even more last second, I swapped from Vespid to Wrecka Krew. Cool. Right, so 1 week before the event, I swapped to Wrecka Krew. I played 0 games with them before I went to the tournament, and I proved this by putting up my Clair Obscur. The last 2 weeks, I've played 50 hours of Clair Obscur, so I literally didn't play any kill team. I swapped to Wrecka Krew, and I said, all right, I guess I'm playing Wrecka Krew. That was my tournament prep. Great. As you can tell, I'm taking this very seriously. I was really ready to to yeah to go top tables at this tournament. Okay. I would recommend Clair Obscur, absolute banger, obviously. Did I do anything else? No. Oh, why did I swap away from Deathwatch, the team that I have played more games with and that I had prepared to play with it? Yeah, good question. I don't. Oh no, it was Worlds. It was Worlds. So it was because Worlds. Because look, I know, I knew that Deathwatch was going to be, regardless of their rules, was going to be one of the most played factions. And I hate playing the most played factions. I don't like playing the popular factions just because I'm a meta slave. Just as much as all the top players are meta slaves, so am I, except to the exact opposite degree. I don't like to play the most popular faction. When the most popular faction by a mile was, or for my Europeans, by a kilometer, was the Deathwatch at Worlds. I was like, I can't do it. I have to swap. And I did. And I thought, I want to play Vespids. Then I thought, but I literally haven't touched Vespids for over 6 months. Okay, at least I've played Wrecka Krew at some point in the last 6 months. I'll go with Wrecka Krew. I know what I'm doing. I charge forwards. I roll dice. Fine. And then I played Clair Obscur solidly for like 2 weeks. Cool. All right. That's my tournament prep. Now, before we get into the first game, I would, of course, like to give a big subscriber-only benefit, and that big subscriber-only benefit is a big double hello. Wow, so wholesome, truly the wholesomest knows no bounds, the world of glass half dead. What is a double hello? It's a pleasantry given to you twice. Hey, if you're in the UK, check out Element Games, Wailing Games, Red October Games. I use all 3 of them. I've put the reasons why I use each one right next to them. If you're in the US, check out Wargame Portal. If you're in Canada, I have a new one called the Northern Citadel for my Canadian viewers. All 3 of you, do check that out. And I also have a whole load of Kill Team game aids. AIDS, to clarify. Thank you. Some people were accusing me of meaning the other type of AIDS, and I would never say that. Very against my moral system. As I say, I keep it wholesome here. I use the Crossfire all-in-one when I'm taking things by backpack. I use the GG Easy stuff when I have access to a car. Both great systems. I've done a Crossfire all-in-one system review very recently. Go check Glass Half Dead Crossfire. You'll find it. It'll turn up. And I'll be doing one for the GG Easy system as well, because he has a few more bits of paraphernalia that is cool. All right, let's get into it. Right, here's game 1. It was into Canoptek Circle. Jesus Christ. I will say that this team, I'm not really going to talk about my other teammates, because although this was a team tournament, honestly, it felt like we were just playing solo games. There was no real, like, whatever. So I suppose, though, for interest, the other people on my team were playing Mandrakes, and one was playing Raveners. I believe the Raveners player was super. I'd never met him before. Guy named Matt. I believe this was one of his first kind of games, like Smart guy. He takes to the game very quickly, but number of games under his belt, very limited. The Mandrakes player, lots of games under his belt. He should be embarrassed about his performance at this tournament. There you go. No further words on that. Okay, so I played into Canoptek Circle. So look, I knew I was going to lose this. Oh, sorry. And the team that we played ended up coming third. I think this was the Yorkshire Kill team. And yeah, so I knew I was going to lose because I have not actually played into Canoptek Circle before. I have played into them twice when I was learning Deathwatch and one of my local friends was learning Canoptek as I was doing my pre review copy games to see how they work, right? So they're not real games, two people learning two different teams, whatever. Fine. So anyway, he deploys as he does. I go pretty heavy into this central stronghold. Nice. I go one on the right just in case. You know, you gotta put threats out there. I don't know what that guy on the right's going to do, but I am of course playing plant banner in this. So I thought, well, maybe I'll go right, maybe I'll go left. I'll give myself options. It was very clear because he had his tomb stalker right behind the door, of the stronghold. He was going to go center. Obviously, makes sense. And also the fact that he put two light barricades and a razor wire along the center line. It's pretty clear what he's trying to do. He's going to stand there, and this was super effective into me. Be clear. Ultimately, I ended up planting the banner on the left-hand side, but I had actually gone for my primary op. I went crit op, and we were playing loot. I actually quite like loot. It's fun. I think it's one of the more fun and basic missions. So good stuff. Right, that's about it. Okay, he smashed me, obviously. Yeah, there's not really much to say about that, but very quickly, I'll do this for all of the games. I want to do kind of the big mistake I made that lost it, and also the big play that obviously I still lost, but like could have turned things around for me. So if we look at forgetting break stuff, so right here I've got my Wrecka fighter, whatever they're called. They're not called fighter, are they? They're the guys that can do a breach point. They can also do break stuff. In fact, it's the same rule. He had just used break stuff to get out of here because the door is here, and I did a break stuff marker. That's my breach point marker right there. So I've got a squig right behind this, and he was there. So I popped this so that I could just run out. Love the Wrecka Krew, by the way. Love the Wrecka Krew. Cool. Got onto the point, ready to tap the point next turn if needed. Nice. Now, I hadn't figured it out at this point, but my whole concept is that I hold my squigs back completely safe until I get the chance to run at him and blow up. Right? Very obvious. Any target within the squig range, I will charge at. Love it. I just want them to blow up so I get Wrecka points, and if I'm lucky, kill somebody, even if it's just a macrosite warrior. Cool. No issues. Unfortunately, he very delightfully blockaded this center line, which meant that in essence, my squigs had to lose 4 inches to get over the barricade, right? Yeah, there you go. So they couldn't charge. And it was only in turn 3, at the end of turn 3, when I kind of realized, oh, I have to move my squigs out of their staging point where they're safe and cannot be blown up, and just a free kill for him, before I figured out that I'd wasted the game and lost it. What I should have done in hindsight was this was a great play by him casting up like this. It's horrible. I hate this play, but that's the game. But I literally have the counter to that. My team alone, Wrecka Krew alone, have the counter to this play. I could have broken stuff on this barricade that allows this squig to get out here again. So that is a brilliant play by the opponent, boring play by the opponent, but what he should have done to hold me back. And then I just didn't counter it. So there you go. Great stuff. Cool. Well done, me. Probably should have practiced the game. I will also say that, keep in mind, imagine a man playing Canoptek Circle saying to me, they're not that bad, I reckon. I'm actually only playing them until Space Wolf Scouts release next week, and then I'm going to main them. Knowing, like, and he's saying that to my face with a straight face. Like, he's saying it straight, and like, I'm like, mate, they're broken. What are you talking about? He's like, no, they're pretty mid, actually. They're pretty balanced. I'm like, okay. We're clearly playing different games. He's playing Canoptek, so he's running Canoptek. His team came third overall. And the team even said that from now until Christmas, they have 8 more tournaments. I'm like, okay, cool. This is not a fair match. I should not be playing this guy. He's playing a different level of game to me when he thinks that Canoptek Circle are fine and Space Wolf Scouts are mid, and he's got 8 tournaments in the next month and a half. Cool. Fine. That should have been the tip that made me think, okay, I should just concede this game. Fine. Cool. Anyway, I played Plant. The good things for me were I played Plant Banner on the correct side and I actually did very well at holding it. I only got 4 off of it instead of 6, but only because I wanted to go and charge him and do other stuff because I'd realised that I'd lost anyway. But then I also did the first time I have ever used my primary as crit op on this, and it worked well. It got me a full 3. If we look at the final score here, I took a 13-15 loss, and if we look here at my my crit op, I'm on the right hand side. Am I? Is this the right one? Maybe. I think this is actually. I'm not sure if this is the right one. Anyway, I did well. There you go. That's all I'm saying. Moving on. Nice. Yeah, I'm on the right side. That is not how I remember things working. Oh, but this is loot. Yeah, this is the one. Okay, moving on. Cool. I lost. I totally expected this loss. Makes perfect sense. Cool. This is not the game I cheated in. This is fine. Right, I then played Deathwatch round 2. This is a match that I know much better. I've played as Deathwatch. I've played a lot against Deathwatch. Obviously, again, not with... I've played one game as Wrecka Krew into Deathwatch lately. So, you know, it's not like I'm super experienced with them. And at that time, I was Deathwatch. The opponent was Wrecka Krew. But at least I've seen the matchup. It wasn't on ITD, though. Or 2 mod, sorry. As you can see here, this picture was taken right at the end of the match, but because I forgot to take any other pictures. He did plant banners on the left here. I did plant banner here, which he, I think, must have moved in and removed, perhaps. And yes, this was a very cagey game. This was sorry, Canoptek Circle was a cagey game. This game was also a cagey game. Sorry, I had no quick games in this. I almost went to time on all of them, I swear. Not me, I promise. But when you're playing Wrecka Krew, your opponent can't be kind of blasé about their moves because the Wrecka Krew will kill pretty much anything in the game, right? If you let them just get a free charge and a trade, and that's great for them. So you have to play a bit cagey, unfortunately. You're always super aware of those squig bomb charges, but you can't just move up, right? And sure enough, he didn't. His key here for winning was twofold. One, he closed this door. I thought he was going to push into here and try to take my objective because he didn't get this one. So I figured he was going to go in and try and get some kills, which then come down to dice, and maybe I can burn the CP to live, etc., etc. Or if he just fluffs, then awesome, I get to win it. He didn't. He closed the door, locked me out, so he was just playing for the plant banner there, which was very good for him. That was key to him, like almost winning. I actually won this, but that was the correct play. This is actually the game that I cheated on, and I will come back to it. I've done a full rundown of the exact process of how I cheated at the end of the tournament review. So very quickly, my big mistake was the squig gamble. If you see my squig is here, this is the final turn of the game, and my squig's just stood behind the door. I completely misplayed where I want my squig to be and when, and what I actually did it in turn 2 or 3, I can't remember. I had 2 squigs here, which were great because one was going to sit here and threaten anything in this objective where I had my plant banner. So if he moves on to this objective, I've got a squig to charge. Great. He ended up not doing that. He went 2 in here instead of going this way, which I expected him to do. Go on that on the right hand objective there. Fine. So eventually I move a squig this way. And at some point I got my demolisher that can blow up, whatever he's called. Takes the Aegis down to 2 health remaining. I'm like, okay, yes, I had to give up my guy, and I didn't get the kill, but that's fine. We go into the next turn, I get initiative, I charge my bomb squig. Because the bomb squig could have got both of these guys. They weren't in this position at the time, but he could get both. If I had only gone in with, for example, my whatever, one of the others, my fighter, whoever, then I would have killed this guy. But because I had to open the door to get to him, did I? No, I didn't. It must have already been open. Then I couldn't get the other guy. And then that guy dies from the trade. So what I wanted to do was go in with the squig. I just need one hit to go through on the bomb squig. And then if I'm lucky, I get a single 4 damage going through on this guy, right? But the Aegis should die from this. I go in, I do 0 damage to both of them. Done. Fine. Is what it is. So that was me relying on dice. It is what it is. My bomb squigs were not particularly effective in this tournament, I must say. But I went for the gamble instead of the guaranteed kill on the Aegis, which meant that he could keep his Aegis in the game until the end, which means probably, if we didn't have the cheating thing that I did later, would have lost me the game. As it is, I won the game, but if we ignore the thing that happens at the end, which again I will go down very briefly in a moment, I reckon that could have been what lost me in the game. We then have my big play was forcing the decision on turn 3. So obviously I out-activate him quite heavily. His Deathwatch, of course I do. I had kept my leader with 2 rocket pistols here for the whole game. We got to the end of turn 3. It was just him left to go. My big knob, if you will, was left to go. And I had realized at that point that I was probably going to lose the game. Or I was behind on points unless I did something. So I had this guy, this Wrecka fighter up here, holding my banner and the center point. Okay, so he's very important. He had a breacher here that was within shooting. He could get to within 2 to shoot this guy, and he'd probably kill this guy. Right? Let's be clear. So he then also, and he was going to get initiative turn 4 because he had all the initiative cards. So I knew he would go first. So I couldn't just let it go to dice. I had to force something. So I had this here where I thought he was going to go through the door and mess me up. I had this here from the breacher where he could go and kill the guy on the point, holding my banner and the point. So with this guy back here, who is too far away to actually do anything this turn, I push him up to here so that he is within 1 inch of this barricade. That means that this guy would have then had access to this Hell Blaster guy at the back and the breacher. So I think that was a really good play by me. It meant that obviously he was going to get an initiative, but there were 3 things that he needed to do first, which means there's only 1 thing he can do, which means there are 2 things I can do. If I hadn't done that, then I think his decision would have been much more obvious. Ultimately, he chose to kill my leader first, which was probably the right choice, because if he didn't, then my leader dashes to there, repositions to there maybe? Dunno, gives him another threat. Or I can deal with the breacher here with a charge, and then he's tied up so he can't reach my fighter here. Something like that. Don't know, didn't play out that way. He got the initiative, he immediately moves in, kills my leader with the Hellblaster, which means success, because I then managed to pick up this point, run away. We were playing whatever the one is where you can pick up the objectives and run away. There you go. Yeah. And you have to pick them up to score them at the end of the game. So this guy over here just picked up an objective. This guy here picked up an objective. Cool. Fine. Nice. Nice. So I think that went well for me. I was happy with how that game went, apart from the fact that I cheated. We'll talk about that. I got a 1-point win. I think I should have had a 1-point loss. We'll get into it later. Then in the final round, I played into Raveners. Now, I don't want to say I haven't played Raveners too often. I have. I've played as and against Raveners quite a bit, possibly even more than Wrecka Krew. But I haven't played them since the new approved ops. So I don't really know how they're playing now and what their approved ops are going to be and how they're going to play that way. And of course I don't know my opponent. So I had no clue how if he was going to be like really aggressive and go for the charges all the time into Wrecka Krew, or if he was going to play it very very sneaky and always come up 2 inches away, shoot me with his thing and then burrow away again. I had no idea his play style or how Raveners play and win in the new approved ops. We are playing the board size that Raveners should probably win on, so it's not we are playing on the long deployment or the short board, if you want to phrase it that way, as opposed to the short deployment or the long board. So basically, he can move up the board with his tunnel much faster on this type of map. Cool. So I did something crazy on this one. I should have stuck with Plant Banner. To be clear, I should have just stuck with Plant Banner. That would have 100% been the better option. I did not do that. Instead, I went Envoy. Now, that's crazy. I understand that's crazy. Yeah, there you go. Yes. Before I played Envoy, I double checked with the TO, can expendable operatives score be the Envoy? And I was told, yes, they can. So my idea had been that I just take this guy, this bomb squig, and stick him in this room. Or if he had deployed heavily this side, I'd have done it with this bomb squig in this room. And that's going to be my Envoy for the game, and they're going to sit there. That is not how Envoy works. So in this game, my big mistake was indeed Envoy specifics. It turns out you can't pick the same Envoy twice. Yeah. Whoops. So obviously my idea had been, because of this room on his side, he picked side, by the way. Because of this room, I was just going to stick a guy in there, let them be the Envoy for the whole game. And yeah, I lose a model, but it gives me 6 VP. Great. Brilliant trade. Turns out you can't do that. So there you go. Whoops. So instead I had to play around with it. And sure enough, I don't think I max scored it. No, I did. But it would have been easier to just drop a banner in here and leave my fighter in there. Or better yet, my fighter goes through, drops a banner, because squigs can't open doors, or drop a banner. And then my squig goes through, holds the banner, and my fighter comes back out and holds this point after closing the door again. Yeah, it's a bunch of shuffling, but it means that my fighter can stand on this point. We were playing, I'm going to say data probably, where in turn 3 and 4, you can choose to tap your objectives, which removes them from the board. You can only tap the center or the far object or the opponent's objective. So there you go. That's a key to how that all plays out, obviously, in this. Mistake, Tremor Scythe. I walked within 2 of the tunnel, not expecting him, trying to get to another guy. Like, I stopped within 2 of his Wrecker, Ravener Tyrannid, and he Tremor Scythed me. I was like, I know the Tremor Scythe can do that. I know that you never move within 2 of the tunnel, but I did it anyway. Now, I think in a tournament, I'm quite strict with myself about not asking for take back. If it had been a friendly, I might have asked for a take back, but as it was, I would not. I didn't ask for a take back, but had I been given it because of the interrupt that it is, I would have said, "Oh yeah, okay, I won't go there," right? Because I didn't need my guy to be there. I could have been somewhere else. So that was just straight up a mistake. It could have been enough damage to lose me the game. I was lucky. I lived on like 2 hit points or something, so like, fine. There you go. My big plays were I think it was turn 3. It might have been the end of turn 2. I got a big blast double kill. So in the center here, my leader used a focus shot. He was stood there. The enemy came up within 2 because he wanted to shoot him. He managed to survive. I think he didn't take any damage, in fact. And then the enemy's other model came up, and I managed to get a big blast shot. It was really tough to shoot these guys, actually, which was cool. It was very thematic for the Raveners. Obviously, he was playing the ploy where the tunnel acts as light terrain. So as long as he's staying concealed, I have to be within 2 to shoot him. Really good, really good. And of course, there's no vantage in this, and I don't have any seek light, so I have to be within 2 to ever shoot him. And I did take 2 cracks, and I did take my Rocketeer, and I did take my my 2 shooter guy, so knob. So I had to always be with danger close if I wanted to get that shot off. Okay, but he brought his Fell Talon and his leader up, and I can't remember how much damage I did. But it was big. It was big damage. Big damn. Big damn, big dick energy. I either killed one or both, or I killed one and then managed to kill the other guy with something later. And then I have to point this out, and I've put it as big play. Really, this should be big mistake by his teammate. So, right, you know how Raveners can burrow. And it's very clearly says in the barrel rule or wherever it says it, at the end of the game, if your model is not on the board, it counts as a kill. Okay? Cool. To me, that's a pointless rule. It shouldn't even be there. I agree it has to be there. um, because otherwise you could do some shenanigans. So you do need your opponent to put the models back on the board. However, at the end of the game, I saw that he had his Tremor Scythe still off the board because I'd managed to get it down to like 2 wounds. So he ran away, right? So to deny me the kill op. Awesome. I jokingly said, oh, and as we were scoring, oh, and of course for the kill op, you're all dead because your Tremor Scythe is off the board. He's dead. Don't worry, you can put it back on the board. Right? I just immediately said that. Okay? Because of course he could. I would never hold somebody who had just forgotten in a counteract to put a model back on the board. Nice. However, his teammate next to me laughed and said, oh, that's exactly what happened over there. Because his teammate was also playing Wrecka Krew into my teammate's Raveners. And I was like, wait, what? Because I would never hold somebody to that kill, right? So I said, hold on, what happened over there? And apparently, the Wrecka Krew on the enemy team did deny my teammates Ravener coming back on at the end of the game. Because again, my teammate was very new at the game. He didn't know that was a rule either. So I was like, oh, purely out of fair, it didn't affect our game at all. It actually won the enemy Wrecka Krew, the game. So it was very important over there. On my game, it didn't change the outcome at all, but purely for my teammates' sake and honor, I said, okay, because it didn't affect anything, I said, okay, well, because your teammate did it to my teammate, I'm not going to let you put the Tremor Scythe back on the board. Cool. So that was funny. That was funny more than anything else. Had no effect on anything, but there you go. I will say, I would never hold anybody to that as a Ravener player, unless what you were doing was so chock-a-block that you literally did not have space to put your model back on the board and everything else you did was a kill or something. So it was like, no, I had to keep him off the board. It was a calculated thing, and I just didn't have the activations left to bring him back on. It's like, okay, fine. But normally you do, and it was just like, oh, I forgot, right? There you go. There you go. So there you go. Cool. Anyway, that was my biggest win of the day. So it was 17 into 10. I will say the final team here was much more my speed of team. Good bunch of guys that were just there to have fun. They actually played my other friends that in a different team at the tournament before I played them the round before. So I managed to hear a bit of them talking. And basically, they just play Kill Team casually. And they think it's the lighter, funner, less sweaty game than 40k. I was shocked to hear because I think Kill Team's really sweaty. But it's good to hear other opinions. And so they thought that it was like, oh yeah, we're just having fun. And they got lots of rules wrong because apparently they're more 40k and even 30k players. And you know what? I love to see it. That is so much more my speed. Really good, really cool of them to just pop along to a Kill Team event and not have them. I feel like everybody else, they just play Kill Team. And I really don't hear them say they play anything else. Just we're here at a Kill Team tournament because we play Kill Team. Whereas these guys were like, oh yeah, we're 30k players, really, but we're at a Kill Team tournament. Oh, I should say that in this team tournament, Kill Team's the side event. There was like a 600 player 40k tournament going on. And we're just in the corner with like a mere 64 players, I think. So yeah. Cool. So anyway, my team was My Narrative Is I Win. Yes, I named that. We got absolutely dominated. I was the best player on my team, and that's saying something. Jesus, my bad. Christ. I like to just imagine that I've shamed my teammates into getting better at the game. If we ever play again, they will have been shamed into being better. That's good. Nice. We then get where did I personally come? In your face. Jesus, I'm sorry. I couldn't stop myself, but we're keeping it wholesome anyway. Number 22, again out of, was it 64? 66? I think it was 66, actually. So I came top third, just. And I'm taking it. I lost 2 wins. And you know what? The loss into into Canoptek, Cool. I'm fine with that. And then my pairings at the top there. So you see the first one was Harrison Law, Canoptek. Second one's Kieran Flanagan, Deathwatch. Third was George Brown, Raveners. All good opponents. All good opponents. Obviously, I hope I never have to play Harrison again because he's somebody that plays Canoptek, you know, and thinks that Wolf Scout's going to be mid. So, again though, obviously they were very good players. Like like that team just wildly outshone me in all of my aspirations. So it's like, well, we got Swissed together. That would be like being Swissed into, any of the London crowd, frankly, who would all smash me. But there you go. Okay, let's talk about the game in which I cheated. It was the Deathwatch game. This game changed in the final shot of the thing. Now, in fairness, it changed in the final shot because me and my opponent scored everything up, which is fine. You're allowed to score up at any time you want. And it was a case of, if nothing changes, this is the current score. We worked out our kill op. We worked out everything. All good. Nice. So we then went down and we figured out that for me to have any chance, I had to take one shot at his breacher with my Rocketeer here, at his breacher here behind cover. Okay? Nice. Good. We like to see it. And that was my only chance at winning the game. Otherwise, I lose the game. Again, only by 1 point or something, but yeah. So, the correct sequence of events on the left. My last operative activates, and as he activates, I choose to use equipment engine oil, which removes injured. I then reposition. I then get guard shot. Now, I'm going to throw it out there. I actually cannot remember what his guard shot did. I can't remember if he guard shot. I believe he did. I can't remember if it completely fluffed. I can't remember if it took me down to just being injured. No clue. Or it didn't injure me at all. Can't remember. I was injured, though. Whether I was injured before the guard shot or after the guard shot, I don't know. Doesn't matter. But just, I'm pointing out that probably happened. I then performed the shoot action. I rolled 1 crit and 5 misses. Honestly, standard for me. Yep, that's about right. I used 2 command points to re-roll 2 of them into 5s, which was just lucky re-rolls. And then I used my 3 Wrecka points, because I had 6 Wrecka points. I had loads of Wrecka points, right? So I then have 3 crits. Oh, the reason it's lethal 5 is because it has blast 1, which of course on Into the Dark means that it's lethal 5. So I've got 3 crits, 3 hits after all of that. I do, he then retains 1 for cover, saves 1, misses 1. I end up with 19 damage on an 18 wound model. He dies. We then flip our primaries and we score. Cool. That is how that correct sequence of events should go. Here is the actual sequence of events, and I've listed quite clearly here. So this is what I actually did. I flipped the primary. I'll come back to that. We then do our pre-score. Cool, that's fine, discussed. You're allowed to pre-score at any time. Really, all this meant was we worked out what each other's kill ops were. There you go. Because the question was, if I'm 1 kill op away and I have to move and get the kill on your breacher, then I will do that. But if there's no point, then I'm not going to throw a kill op away for you, right? So we do the pre-score. Cool. My last operative activates. I reposition. I get guard shot. I then shoot. I roll 1 crit and 5 misses. Now I've put here 2 CP rolls into 5s. The reason I put that into a different color is just because I was being quite sloppy. It was the final activation. We just pre-scored. We realized I have to do something. I was quite sloppy with my sequence of events. Okay. That's not the word it's meant to be, but that's fine. I had 4 command points left. So I had the command points, but when I did this, I had just stopped counting command points. So because I had loads, I stopped counting. I used 2 command points. What if I'd needed to do something before or after that I hadn't thought of? And I was like, yeah, I've rerolled 2. And then I didn't change my dice in my score tray. It's like, well, what am I doing now? Like, did I actually use those 2 command points? This was just sloppy play. I should always track my command points right up into the last point, even when I feel I have loads. I then used the equipment engine oil. I then had 3 Wrecka points, which gave me 3 crits, 3 hits, 19 damage on 80 wound model, and we scored up, and I won by 1 point. Now, We could easily look at use equipment, engine oil. I did that at the wrong time. That should happen as soon as your operative activates. Now, I'm pretty lax. I had not used my engine oil at all in this turn, so it was legal to use. This was the final activation of the game. There was literally no reason to not use it. And I will say again, my opponent didn't say, no, you can't do that. He didn't even question it. He was just like, okay, fine. This is what allowed my fives to be hits. Now, yes, I have lethal 5. Is that what it's called? Yeah. Yes, I have lethal 5 because it's blast 1 and on Into the Dark, blast 1 or 2 world. Close quarters, that's what it's called. And on close quarters, blast 1 means you have lethal 5. But the 5 still have to be hits, right? I was injured, so I was hitting on 6s instead of 5s. Removing the injured lets those 5s be hits, which means they can be crits. This should have been used way up here. However, I actually don't believe this would be counted as cheating. To me, that is something in the same way that I will allow my Ravener opponent to just put their model back on the board because you had the activation to do it. You chose to pass, but instead you could have just put him at the back of the board, right? Like, that's fine to me. Likewise, because engine oil, because it was the last activation of the game, there was not going to be any chance for you to use it again. I don't think that's an issue. It is technically wrong. You are supposed to declare it because, of course, at the time you declare it, normally in like turn 3, let's say, and you've got lots to do, declaring it after you have rolled dice is bad. That's very bad form. And in turn 3, I would probably say that is cheating, and it's down to your opponent if they allow you to make that cheat move, right? And really, it's not a cheating, it's not a rules mistake, it's a take back. At that point, you've rolled dice, you shouldn't be allowed to do it. However, because it was the final activation, hypothetically, I could have just said, even if this guy didn't wasn't injured, I said, yeah, I use engine oil, right? Because there was nothing else happening in the game. So normally I would consider that very poor form. On this particular instance, I actually have no issue with it. And yes, I realize that I'm the one saying this as the one that did it, but I would extend the same courtesy to my opponent. If you have the ability on the final activation of the game to remove injured, even if it doesn't, you could just say, yeah, okay, remove injured. Why not? Cool. My campaign of psychological terror began with Flip Primary. Let me tell you what happened exactly. I think we were at the first activation of turn 4. I think he had just killed my leader. Okay? I'm sat down. I have my head in my hands. Like slouching like that. Like I'm bored, not like I'm crying, to be clear. Although you never know, you know? Like this. And I had already planted banner. And I looked down at my cards and they're both still face down. So I had just turned over the plant banner card. Cool, done. Just because I planted banner, it should have been turned over when I planted banner 2 turns ago. Fine. I look down, and I realized that I flipped my primary, and it says TACOP. I was like, oh no. And I look up at my opponent, who's looking at me in the eyes, having just turned over my primary card. Now, I made a mistake. I didn't mean to do that. But because I did not then flip it back over and say, oops, lol, what a loser, I don't know, right? Instead, what I have accidentally transferred information to him is that I flip it, we then look at each other. I was looking to see if he realized I flipped it accidentally. He was, as he stared at me, and I was like, oh no. And remember that I'm sat here with my head in my hand, having just flipped my card. I look like I've conceded. Okay? This guy, who's obviously playing to win, as we all are, thinks my opponent is so down in the dumps and he's given up. He's not conceding because it's a tournament. You're literally not allowed to concede. But he's done. He's done with the game. We could just talk this out at this point. Right? He thinks, oh no, my opponent, he's a human, right? My opponent's feeling bad. I'm going to win. And we did think he was going to win. We can just talk it out. We can just wrap this up. There's no, let's not dwell. Okay. And he's turned his primary, which is something you do at the end of the game, because you're giving away hidden information that could allow somebody to get the win where they otherwise wouldn't. And sure enough, in a game where there's 1 point in it, the primary does matter. And in this game, it did matter. So I gave him hidden information that is given at the end of the game. And then that's a mistake. Nothing wrong with mistakes. We can all learn from them. And then I didn't flip it back over. And that, friends, was the campaign Psychological Terror. Because from then on, he thought, as a human, you don't want other humans to hurt, right? He's seeing me being upset. I'm not, to be clear, I'm not upset. I was just, it had been a long day. I was sat down, resting my head. I flipped the wrong card. I had no negative feelings in the game. It was tight. It was cagey. It was a good game, genuinely. I enjoy the Wrecka Deathwatch matchup, right? He was winning 100% because I'd made a mistake with the door activation, assuming he was going to come through, and he didn't. So he was winning. But he thought I'd given up. And because I did not flip that back over, I genuinely think that everything that happened here only happened because as we were pre-scoring, he gave me a piece of information, which was because we got to some point and it was like, oh, if I do that, then we're going to draw. And so I don't need to go out and do this. To which he's said, oh, well, because of my tack op, I'll get one more. And because of course he said that, I then did do the thing. Now, in fairness, I was probably going to do the thing anyway, because it's more fun to do the thing than not do the thing. Let's be clear. Like, being able to shoot my rocket launcher is fun. I wanted to do that. I 80% was going to do that. But when he said, oh no, we wouldn't draw, I would win because of my tack op, as you have flipped your tack op, and I'm trying to cheer up a fellow human being, it shifted that from 80% to 100%, because why not? I've got nothing to lose. And because of that, I do genuinely think, as odd as it might sound, like, sequence of events happens and you mess it up sometimes, right? That's not that big of a deal. But because I flipped my primary and then did not unflip it, and because of the way that I acted, in the way that I was seeming down, I wasn't down. It had been a very cagey game. Neither of us were like jokey, smiley, happy people. We were like, oh, this is a puzzle to solve. It was a fun game, to be clear. It was tight. Love it tight, obviously. But because of the type of game it was, we weren't joking around. We were like focused on it. I hope at least we were both enjoying the game at least. And that type of game combined with my natural dour disposition, I'm not going to be laughing and joking. It's just not me. So that plus the flip of the primary, which seems like a concede, I genuinely think that I cheated because I flipped the primary. And then, yeah. In a sense, I psychologically manipulated him to give me additional information that he would not normally give me. And I think that is actual cheating. It was a mistake. I didn't mean to do it. And I only figured out that it was what it was like 2 days after the tournament, as I dwelled upon it, as I mulled it over, There you go. So anyway, let me know. Do you think that is cheating? So we go back to the first line. The difference between an honest mistake and cheating is an unknowable intent. It's great for me to sit here and say, I didn't mean to do it. But what if I had meant to do it? Because you can't look at this sequence of events and say it's cheating. It was a mistake. But that's only because I'm telling you it was a mistake. Right? I could also be somebody that is looking to win at all costs. A whack player, as we call it, a win at all costs player. And you know what? Using little tricks like that, an out of activation engine oil, a psychological manipulation by flipping my primary early to get additional information. That's going to work 9 times out of 10 as you act sad so that you get more information and leniency from your opponent because you're being a sulky little bitch. Or so they think you are. The difference between honest mistake and cheating is an unknowable intent. And again, the bottom tables, I don't think it matters. Top tables, huge deal. And nobody should act at the top tables the way I acted in my game. And ultimately, my opponent, Kieran, gets to decide if I was cheating or not. There you go. Next time I see him, I'll be ready for a left jab to the face. That's for sure. And again, Kill Team is such a narrow game, such a tight game where often 2 mil decides whether you take 100% damage and get tabled or 0% damage and win, right? So did I cheat? Good question. Good question. Cool. Very quickly at the end, I do want to point out a few other cheats that I saw at the tournament. Obviously, I only know these because my additional people that I was talking to encountered them. My Mandrake player made a big mistake. He then got absolutely smashed because of that mistake, to be clear. So he attempted to play his Shadow Portal twice in a way that normally you're allowed to, but you have to play the Shadow Passage from the Shade Weaver first. Then later you can have somebody else teleport, whatever it's called. He teleported first, and then the Shadow Passage not legal to do after that. You have to have the sequencing correct way round on that. He thought he could do the teleport first, the Shadow Passage later. You can't. Fine. A mistake. He didn't get away with it because his opponent called the TO on it just to confirm. He had an interaction there. We shan't talk about it. But because of that, he lost the game. He attempted to cheat. Again, he just made a rules mistake. It's fine. But yeah. But he didn't get away with it. If he had gotten away with it, what should have happened? Suddenly we have a Mandrake player that is teleporting more than he should. That's an issue. We then had, again, the final... no, I won't say who it was at all, obviously. There was we all know Vox Scream, right? The Vox Screams recently had a nerf. You got to roll a d6. You got to roll, I think, above the enemy's APL, something like that. Or below. No, it's probably... It must be above. And then the opponent has to pick a different model when they go to activate that model, right? Very strong. Took a nerf, not nearly as strong now. Obviously, it's on a dice roll. I think that's a bit cringe, but fine, whatever. And these guys were great guys. Again, I have no issues with them. I know that this wasn't cheating. But he thought the way the rule worked was that you do that, and then it's not just that the opponent picks another model. He thought that the opponent missed a turn. And that's how he played it into one of my friends from the Salisbury crew. So that's massive. That's great. That's such a big. That's bigger than anything I did. That's such a big mistake, right? But it was a mistake. But that was big enough that you could easily look at that and say that's cheating. Your opponent should not have to know your rules. I said this multiple times in my Canoptek match. He moved somewhere. He said, "I'm going to be here. I'm going to be like an inch for that. Is that I'm going to move 6 here. That looks like I can make that." Do you think I was like, wait? If I have to check your movements, I don't want to play this game. If I can't trust you to move your model correctly, I'm not going to have fun. I don't want to play it, and I stand by that. Obviously, on movement, that is 100% true, but it goes for all rules. I shouldn't have to check your rules, and you shouldn't have to check mine. And it's down to me to know my rules well enough for you. There you go. Now, the fact that I no-lifed Claire Obscure Expedition 33 for 2 weeks before going to the tournament instead of learning my fucking rules, bit of an issue. That was on me. My apologies to my opponents for that one. But overall, I had a good time. Didn't like playing Canoptek Circle. That was really boring. Enjoyed playing Deathwatch. Enjoyed playing Raveners. And going into the next tournament in a year's time, whenever I actually go to one, not sure what I'll play next. I liked the Wrecka Krew. I should probably give them a fairer outing. But they were the most played team at this tournament. And as you know, I don't like playing that. So maybe I'm going to swap to Raveners, perhaps? Don't know. We'll see. Anyway, everybody, thank you so much for watching. Do consider checking out my affiliate links. That'd be awesome if you're ever buying some Warhammer. Even if you don't like me, click on somebody's affiliate link. It's free support for your favorite YouTuber or a YouTuber you hate, but for some reason want to like give money to. So that'd be great if that's me. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good one. If you made it to the end of the video, I'd like to give you a big triple hello. Wow, so wholesome because you are in my life. Thank you.